Okay, this is Phil Fasso from Death Ensemble, and I'm here with Denice Duff from the Subspecies films. So, Denice, let's start off with this. How did you get involved with the world of vampires, which you seem to be inextricably linked to?
Oh, wow. I was just cast in one full moon movie, and that turned out to be 3 films for me. So I kind of got, triple the bang for my buck. And I sort of never really wanted to play any other vampire except for the Michelle character. I felt a little loyal to her. Then again, I was on Young and Restless for a couple of years as, Mackenzie's mom, Amanda. I've done all sorts of TV commercials for like Ivory Soap and Chex Party Mix and Bud Light and Mr. Clean. So it's like I'm not really a full-blown scream queen because Procter & Gamble wouldn't hire me for a commercial if I totally was.
So what was it like filming on location?
Well, it's not only just on location, it's on location in Romania.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a very third world country that had just finished its communist rule, so they didn't really have a lot of anything. Just coming up with regular water to drink was a challenge. Electricity sometimes was sketchy. But all of the special effects that we did were done very realistically because the people that worked there on the film, the crew, are real artisans. Even like explosions were done with like real shaved carbon and real exposed wires. I mean, we kind of felt our life was on the line all the time, and yet these guys really knew their craft. They didn't rely on a bunch of technology to get them through it. I mean, there is a scene where a knife gets thrown and it goes into the head of one of the characters, and they just took a knife and glued it onto a clear piece of plexiglass, and then took that clear piece of plexiglass and strung a piece of fishing line through a top hole that was made in it, and then just pushed it, and the camera panned with it. I mean, that's like unheard of, I mean,
that's ingenuity.
It's brilliant. It required no computer post. The effect was done, bada bing, in the can, and nobody has to deal with it later. So those were the kind of fascinating elements I got to be a part of.
Now, Michelle is a complex character because you balance out, and I think you do it brilliantly, the feminine
or human
quality with the whole vampire thing.
Yeah.
You go with the whole spectrum, and then there's the whole, you go from being human at the very beginning, and then it's this whole tortured soul thing going on. So how did that...
Well, the most difficult part, too, with that is we were filming part 2 and part 3 back-to-back, and not even back-to-back, but intertwined, depending on what locations we were able to use at the time. So we might shoot, let's say there's, 70 scenes per film, so scenes 1 through 70 are in part 2, scenes 71 to 140 are in part 2, so we may shoot scene 113, and then 10 minutes after that we shoot scene 3, and then a half an hour after that we shoot scene 86, and then we shoot scene... So it's like I had to constantly check in and keep notes in my script as to where I was at, where I had evolved emotionally and physically as a vampire. So when I see this girl and I go for a kill, am I full bore? Am I going for the jugular with full animal instincts, or am I still reluctant like I am earlier on in the script? So it was a little bit of a mathematical equation for me to see, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, where am I at in this scene?
That's got to be challenging to both.
Oh yeah, but that's what an actor wants.
Sure.
You can't just phone in your performance. You really have to craft it.
Well, and I think that's one of the great things about Michelle is it's a really meaty role for that type of film, for a low-budget horror film.
Yeah. And in the big scheme of things, the budget on that was not low. It was like they put in a couple million, and you really see it on the screen.
Sure. So I do want to talk to you real quickly about, because I actually saw you in something to scream about a few years ago. And you go into the whole trials and tribulations of being a scream queen. So why don't you talk about that?
Oh, God. Did I say I don't feel that I am a scream queen? Because I never feel like I am. I haven't really gone that route, Again, I've kept sort of a more mainstream career, and living in L.A., affords you that. You're able to work on, big budgeted films. That you're able to do primetime television, and I got to work on CSI Miami, and that's not really a Scream Queen outlet, So, Young and Restless, not really a Scream Queen outlet, Although people like Barbara Crampton and myself have done both, but it's a rare kind of balance.
So at conventions like this, though, you have to be in full Scream Queen mode, I would think, no?
No, well, I mean, my tits aren't really hanging out. Not that I have that much. But I will say, from the very first time I did a convention right after Subspecies, I did a convention. It wasn't even a convention; it was a signing at Hollywood Book and Poster on Hollywood Boulevard. And I remembered going there, and there were, I won't name all the actresses that were there. They probably were only 8 or 9 years older than me, but they looked 20 years older than me because of all the makeup and all the hairspray and all the hair and all the push-up bra. And I thought, God, I'll never have all these sexy pictures of me and sell them for people. Like, I was giving them away. Cut to a few years later, I've got like 7 different styles of pictures, And really, what I've gotten from these conventions is you get to meet one-on-one with fans who really appreciate the work that you do on it, and it is a specialized public. And I'll say that horror and sci-fi fans, they're usually very well read, and they're very passionate, and they really see what you've put your heart and soul into creating. And it's not for everybody. And so, never having done any of these kind of films until Subspecies, going to conventions really made me appreciate the work that I put into this.
Sure. So you don't get any requests for Young and the Restless pictures while you're here?
Isn't that funny? Not at all.
Now, the IMDb has you listed as working on a sequel to the remake of Night of the Living Dead. Is that how to go?
Yeah. I mean, that's done. It's having a screening actually next week in Hollywood, and it's already got a distributor. I wish I remember the name of the company, but it's Jeff Broadstreet directed it. Jeffrey Combs is starring in it with Andrew Divoff. So there should be some other familiar faces, and I play a zombie of Sarah Palin.
That's an interesting take.
That is.
One more question for you before I let you go.
Yeah.
What was it like working with Ander?
Oh, honest Hobey. He's always on drinking wine. He goes for every take 150%. He truly tries to scare me when he's grabbing my neck or my head or my scalp or my hair with those spindly latex gloves. I'm in pain, and he knows it, and he knows that he's making my job easier to act. And at the end of every take, he hugs you and apologizes if he hurt you, and just always is going for the humor. He's a classically trained actor and knows that he knows the art of comedy and camp, and that was really a beautiful quality to have, because when I directed my own film, Vampire Resurrection, the actor that I cast, James Horan, a great actor, he's not really a camp actor. He hadn't done as many in the genre as I had, and that knowledge of what it's like to go so far past the point and make something absurd, fans really love that and appreciate that. And so to see that in honors every day was a fucking blast, to be honest.
Thank you very much. It was an absolute pleasure.
Oh my God, this was